Welcome back. Episode 6 of Silo, titled The Relic. Although a slower paced episode, there's plenty of backstory and a couple of shocking twists at the end to keep us intrigued. Let's dive in, and as always, spoilers ahead. The episode starts with flashbacks with George as we continue to understand more about Juliet's relationship. George also asks a lot of questions we have.
If these things aren't worth risking our lives for, why do they make it a risk to our lives to have them?
And even ends up with the biggest question of all. Is this all a lie? This almost sets up the end of the episode or suggests a possibility on how the whole series may end. Throughout these flashbacks with George, when he says he's found something, I always questioned if that meant the hard drive or the area where the drill is. Interesting though, in a blink and you'll miss it moment, Juliet reveals to us that she was the one to show George the drill. This then leads me to believe George has found many things prior to the drill to build up his question bank. This then brings me back to Sims. Did George finally discover what was behind the janitor's door? Or could someone in George's family be part of the janitor crew? Juliet has an idea to use the Duck Pez relic to frame Doug and open a relic investigation. This pisses off Sims, who knows everything about the silo, including our relics, but also leads us to question why Sims knew that George had the Pez relic in the first place. As Juliet and Billings discuss this with Judge Meadows, we notice here that she's feeling under the weather, with that and several side glances to Sims. Based on last week's information about Sims being the janitor's boy and how the janitors know the truth, this starts to make us question, is Meadows actually in charge? As it looks as though when she agrees to the investigation, she's almost asking Sims for permission. Also, could Sims be poisoning Judge Meadows? Hence the mysterious illness. Billings did suggest he was taking the rest of the poison down to the farm, and with all those listeners around, could Sims have used that against Meadows? This episode seems to focus a lot on relationships. First, we have the relationship of Juliet and George, and the fact that George may have been using her like he did with Regina Jackson, although he doesn't seem to have gotten anything from Juliet. So does this mean George might have found something only Juliet could fix or understand? We also have the tension building between Sims and Juliet as he starts to uncover her methods, and we learn that he knows everything. It's hard to tell at this point if he's working for Judicial, himself, or maybe even the founders. Definitely a character worth watching. Interesting here was the fact the description he typed into the computer to find the information on the Pez relic was the word toy. This implies that Sim has not only seen the item before, but may have information on events prior to the silo's creation. Not only that, there were a number of items returned on the computer search with the description pre-silo. Finally, we have Billings and Juliet with the trust issues they face. We learn here that Billings actually has the syndrome. Not much is spoken about this, the effects, the cure. Is it hereditary? And more importantly, is this silo related? We do get a little mention here with Billings' daughter though, where his wife suggests, it can't be passed on, so maybe it's not hereditary. But Billings still looked very concerned for that not to be the case. We end the episode on the biggest twist of all. George was hiding another relic inside a rug, and it turns out to be a magazine of the state Georgia. We see pictures of kayaking, dolphining, and even people enjoying the landscape and the beautiful sunset. Just as we think Juliet's expressions are enough, we find out that she's being watched through a camera as well as the rest of the silo. Two men notice her and suggest waking up him. This does make us think back to George's question, if this is all a lie. Is the him those men refer to Sims or Bernard, or is it going to be someone else? Are they watching from the silo or outside the silo? And why were they watching Juliet? All these questions we're going to discuss and do a deep dive in our weekly Silocast. dropping in the next few days. Join us then for some crazy theories, some predictions for episode 7, and as always, we keep it casual. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time with something new.